Part 1, The Unspoken Thing. I never liked birthdays. Not since I turned 17, at least. There's something about forced celebration that makes you notice everything that's missing. This one, my 36th, was no different. I spent the morning alone, sitting at the little table by the window in my apartment, watching the steam rise from my coffee, half listening to the buzz of the city outside. The kind of gray morning that carries a weight behind it, like something's about to change. I wasn't expecting a knock at the door. When I opened it, Claire was standing there, the same soft eyes I remembered, holding a wrapped box in both hands like a peace offering. She hadn't changed much, same black coat, same delicate fingers always fidgeting with something, this time the ribbon on the box. "It's been a while," she said, quiet. 7 years, I thought. I hadn't seen her since the night everything fell apart. "Yeah," I managed. "Come in." I let her into the apartment. It was still early. The kind of quiet where the day hasn't made up its mind yet. We sat across from each other, the box untouched between us. "I thought, birthdays might still matter," she said, looking down at her hands. "Even after everything." There was something in her voice I hadn't heard before. Or maybe something I hadn't noticed when I should have. "Why now?" I asked. She didn't answer. Not with words. Instead, she took a photo from her coat pocket and slid it across the table. It was a child. A little boy. 4, maybe 5 years old. Pale skin, dark eyes. Mine. Unmistakably mine. "I didn't know how to tell you," she whispered. My heart didn't pound. It just stopped. And then, just as it started to beat again, slow, cold, and heavy, I looked back up at her, and said the only thing I could think of. "Where is he now?" Claire didn't blink. "That's why I'm here. He's missing." Part 2, The Weight of the Silence. She told me his name was Eli. Said he'd been gone for 2 days. No note. No clue. Just, gone. "I went to wake him up on Monday, and he wasn't there," she said. "His window was open. He's never done that before." Her voice was steady, too steady, like she'd rehearsed it. Like she was holding herself together with threads that could snap any second. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to feel. There was a son. My son. And he was missing. I stared at the photo again. Eli had my eyes. That same weary look, like he understood more than he should. My chest tightened. I couldn't tell if it was panic or guilt. "Have you gone to the police?" She nodded. "They said to wait. Kids his age, sometimes they hide. Run off. But I know something's wrong." She reached into her bag again and pulled out a worn blue sweater. "This was in the alley behind our building. It's his." She laid it on the table like it was sacred. I didn't touch it. I couldn't. "Why didn't you tell me about him?" I asked finally. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out at first. "Then, because I didn't think you'd want anything to do with me." I remembered the night she left. The fight. The screaming. Me saying things I didn't mean. Her packing the last of her things while I drank on the floor. I remembered the slam of the door and the silence that followed. I never went after her. She reached across the table, just barely brushing my hand. "I didn't come here for forgiveness," she said. "I came because I don't know who else to turn to." That's when I noticed it, the faint bruise along her wrist. She'd tried to hide it under her sleeve. "Claire," I said slowly. "Who have you been around lately?" She looked down, eyes filling with something sharp and unspoken. And that's when she whispered a name I hadn't heard in over a decade. Lucas. Part 3, Ghosts with Familiar Eyes. Lucas. My brother. We hadn't spoken in years. Not since he stole from me, left our mother's funeral early, and vanished without so much as a goodbye. The kind of brother who leaves damage like fingerprints on everything he touches. And now Claire was saying his name. Like he was part of this. He showed up 2 months ago, she said. Out of nowhere. Said he was clean. Said he wanted to help. Eli liked him. Her voice cracked on the last part. Why the hell would you let him near him? I didn't know who else to turn to, she snapped back. I was working late, tired. And Lucas, he was charming. Different. But Lucas was never different. He was a shapeshifter, sure, but never changed. Did Eli go missing after being with him? She nodded. The last time I saw Eli, he was playing outside. Lucas was supposed to be watching him. I stood up too fast, my chair scraping the floor. Where is he now? I don't know. He stopped answering my calls the day Eli disappeared. I grabbed my coat. Claire stood too. You're going after him? Of course I am. Her voice dropped to almost nothing. Then I'm coming with you. She had that look again. The one that used to make me believe her, no matter how bad things were. It scared me how easily it came back. We drove through rain. Her silence filled the space like a third passenger. My mind kept returning to the photo. Eli's face. My blood. Somewhere out there. Maybe in danger. Maybe worse. Lucas lived in the kind of place that didn't ask questions. We found the building half-lit, crumbling at the edges. The buzzer didn't work. I banged on the door until a neighbor let us in. We climbed the stairs 2 at a time. Claire behind me, breath shaking. His door was unlocked. Inside, it was dark, stale. A mattress on the floor. Half-empty bottle of vodka. No photos. No notes. But on the floor by the window, there was a crayon drawing. A house. A stick figure. And next to it, written in a child's hand, one word. Dad. Part 4, the drawing on the floor. I stared at the crayon drawing for a long time. Something about the way the word Dad was written, clumsy but deliberate, made my hands go cold. It was the kind of thing a child draws when they're told what to believe. Not when they know it. Claire knelt beside me, her fingers trembling as she touched the paper. He never called anyone that before, she whispered. Not even me. I looked at her. You think Lucas told him I was dead? She didn't answer. Didn't have to. I could see it in her eyes. Regret. The slow-blooming kind. The room smelled like sweat, old clothes, and something rotten underneath it all. I checked the drawers. Empty. Mattress, nothing under it. Closet, just a torn jacket and a small bag of candy. Half full. That stopped me. The wrapper was recent. He was here, I said. Not long ago. Claire stood up too quickly and grabbed the doorframe for balance. Then where is he now? I scanned the room again, this time slower. Lucas always had hiding places. Back when we were kids, he used to stash things in vents, behind broken wall panels. I checked along the wall by the window and found one of the panels loose. I pulled it free and reached inside. A burner phone. Still on. I turned to Claire. We might have something. The phone had only a few messages. Most were junk. But one thread stood out, labeled simply M. There were 4 messages. You said clean. He's not supposed to remember. I told you no contact until it's ready. Do not bring the boy back until you're sure. We're running out of time. Claire was reading over my shoulder. What does that mean? She asked. I shook my head slowly. I don't know. But whoever this is, they knew about Eli. And they didn't want him coming back. I saved the number. There was no reply when I called. Straight to voicemail. Then Claire grabbed my arm. Wait. She pointed at something scribbled on the back of the drawing, barely visible under the colored wax. A number. An address. Scrawled in Lucas's handwriting. I knew it instantly. A place in Millbrook, 2 towns away. A farmhouse we used to visit in the summers when we were kids. Belonged to an uncle who drank too much and left us alone with the woods. I hadn't thought about that place in years. You think he took Eli there? She asked. I looked down at the word again. Dad. A lie. Or a wish. I couldn't tell which was worse. We'll find out, I said. We were halfway to the car when Claire stopped. There's something I need to tell you first. The wind had picked up. Cold against my neck. What is it? Her voice was barely audible over the traffic. There's more to what happened the night I left. I turned slowly. What do you mean? She swallowed. Hard. Lucas wasn't the only one I turned to back then, she said. After you and I ended. After I found out I was pregnant. She didn't finish. But I didn't need her to. Somewhere behind her words, I felt it, like the faintest crack in a frozen lake. I said nothing. She got in the car first. And I followed, unsure if I was driving toward Eli, or away from the last piece of truth I could stomach. Part 5, The House in the Woods. The road to Millbrook felt like a memory I didn't want. We drove in silence, headlights cutting through the dusk as trees leaned over the road like they were listening. I hadn't seen the old farmhouse in nearly 20 years, but I remembered the shape of the land around it, the slope till behind the barn, the rusted swing creaking in the wind. Claire was quiet the whole drive. I knew she was holding something back. I also knew pushing her wouldn't help. When you've buried something that deep, it takes its own time to surface. We pulled up just after 9. The house sat in the middle of an overgrown field, boarded windows and a sagging porch, half swallowed by wild grass. The place looked abandoned, but something about the air felt recent. Used. We left the car on the side of the road and approached on foot. My boots cracked twigs under the wet grass. Claire stayed behind me, hugging herself like the cold had gotten under her skin. I tried the front door. Locked. Around the back, one of the basement windows had been forced open, frame cracked, glass chipped away. Just big enough for someone small to crawl through. Someone like Eli. I turned to Claire. We go in quietly. If he's in there, we don't scare him. She nodded, but her face was pale. Her eyes fixed on the window like it was a mouth swallowing us both. Inside, the house smelled of mold and smoke. Someone had been lighting fires in the fireplace recently. There were wrappers on the floor. Cheap snacks. Cans of soup. And crayons, again. We moved carefully through the house. Every creak felt like a shout in the silence. I checked each room. Empty. 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 Then I heard it. A soft noise, upstairs. A footstep. Then a whisper. Muffled. Claire clutched my sleeve. I motioned for her to stay behind as I climbed the stairs. Each step groaned beneath me. At the top of the landing, I saw light leaking from under a door at the end of the hall. I reached it slowly. Listened. A voice. Too low to understand. Then, something familiar. A child's voice. Dad? I froze. My hand hovered over the doorknob. I turned it. The room inside was lit by a single lantern. On the floor sat Eli, knees pulled to his chest, holding a stuffed bear in one hand. He looked up. His eyes met mine. He didn't scream. He didn't cry. He just said, quietly, "You're not him." My stomach turned. Then, from the shadows, a figure moved. Lucas. Older. Thinner. A face full of tired angles and shadowed eyes. He stepped between me and the boy. "Hey, brother," he said. "I've been expecting you." Part 6, Things That Don't Stay Buried. Lucas didn't look surprised. If anything, he looked calm. Like he'd been rehearsing this moment in his head for a long time. Eli stayed behind him, unmoving, clutching the stuffed bear like a lifeline. Claire pushed past me, her voice cracking. "Eli, baby, it's Mom, I'm here." Lucas held up a hand, and she stopped. Not because she was scared, but because of how Eli looked at him. Like he was waiting for permission. It was wrong. All of it. "What the hell are you doing?" I asked, my voice low. Lucas looked at me like he was sizing up a wound he didn't want to admit was his fault. "I kept him safe." "That's more than you ever did for me." Claire stepped beside me, shaking. "He's 5. You took him." "I didn't take him," Lucas said, and his tone hardened. "I saved him." That word echoed in the air like it didn't belong there. I looked at Eli again. His eyes were blank. No fear, but no recognition either. Like whatever version of me Claire had tried to explain to him had been overwritten by something else. Someone else. Lucas turned back toward the boy. "Go wait in the closet, buddy. Like we practiced." Eli stood slowly and walked to the closet without looking back. When the door closed, I stepped forward. "If you don't explain what's going on, I swear." "You'll what?" Lucas cut in, voice sharp. "Hit me? Like Dad used to hit us? Or maybe you'll pretend I don't exist again, like you did after Mom died. That's not the same." "No," he said, bitter. "It's worse." Claire was near tears. "Why, Lucas? Why him? Why now?" Lucas exhaled, ran a hand through his hair. "Because I couldn't do it alone. Because he deserves better. And because, he's not just your kid." The room tilted. I turned to Claire. "What is he talking about?" Her eyes locked onto mine, and everything inside her seemed to fracture. "I was going to tell you, before we got here. I didn't know how." Lucas stepped in. "I told her to. She was scared you'd leave again. You always leave when things get hard." I stared at Claire, but she couldn't meet my eyes. Her voice came small. "Eli, might be his." For a moment, the only sound in the room was the soft tick of the lantern's flame. I felt my breath leave me like something vital had been punched out. "But you said." "I thought he was yours," she said quickly. "I did. But, there was a night. One night. After we split. Lucas showed up. I was angry. Alone. It was a mistake. A terrible, selfish mistake. I turned away from her, from him, from the closet where the boy, maybe my son, maybe not, was waiting in the dark. Lucas didn't look proud. He looked like a man who wanted to be punished but was too tired to ask for it. "I didn't come back to ruin your life," he said. "I came back because I thought I had a second chance. Not just with him, with both of you. And when she let me in, I thought maybe that meant something." Claire's voice was barely a whisper. "I didn't let you in. I let myself believe you changed." He nodded. "Same thing." I felt the old anger boiling under my skin. The kind that never really goes away, just waits for an opening. "You don't get to rewrite this story, Lucas." He looked at me then, really looked, and something in his face cracked. "I didn't write it," he said. "I just picked up the pieces when you walked away." Then, from inside the closet, Eli spoke again. Only this time, he was crying. Why are you yelling? Part 7, The Blood We Claim. Claire was already moving toward the closet when Eli cried out. She knelt down and opened the door gently, reaching for him with both arms. He hesitated at first, just long enough to make my heart crack, but then he let her pull him into her lap. His little body folded against her like he'd been holding everything in for days. I've got you, she whispered. I've got you now. Lucas didn't move. He just watched them. And for a second, I saw something slip across his face, a flicker of grief so sharp it looked like guilt wearing a mask. I stepped closer to him. Quiet. Controlled. You've got 10 seconds to tell me the truth, I said. No riddles. No half-stories. Just why. He met my eyes. His jaw tightened. Then he said it. Because they were going to take him. Who? Lucas looked at Claire. Tell him. You know who. She didn't speak. Her hand was smoothing Eli's hair, her eyes far away. She looked hollowed out by something I hadn't yet understood. Claire, I said slowly. Who was going to take him? She closed her eyes. His father, she said. Whoever wasn't you. The air left the room like it had been vacuumed out. I said nothing. I just stared at her. The worst part wasn't the admission, it was the look on her face. Like she'd already lost something. Like she'd made a choice and couldn't undo it. There was a paternity test, she said finally. 3 months ago. I didn't tell you. I told Lucas. I nodded, my mouth dry. And? She didn't look up. He's his. My legs gave out before I knew they were moving. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed. Lucas didn't gloat. He didn't move. He just looked away. I didn't ask for this, he said quietly. I didn't expect it. But when I found out, I felt something I've never felt before. Like I could finally get something right. I looked at the boy, nestled against Claire's chest, now calm. Breathing slow. I still raised him, I said, my voice like broken glass. I wanted him. Every day I didn't know, every second I lost, I wanted him. Claire's voice was thick with regret. I know. And I should have told you. But I thought, if you found out, you'd hate me. And I couldn't lose both of you. Lucas stepped toward us then, slower than before. I wasn't going to keep him. Not forever. Just long enough to figure out how to do this right. And your idea of right, I said, standing again, was hiding him in a decaying house, like a ghost no one was looking for? He said nothing. Just stood there. And it hit me then, he wasn't evil. He was broken. And in his way, he was trying to fix something in himself by claiming a part of someone else. Claire finally stood, still holding Eli. We're leaving, she said. You're not coming with us. Lucas looked down at the floor. I know. I turned to him, bitter heat rising in my chest. You don't get a say in his life now. Not after this. But then he looked up, and for once, there was no defiance in him. I never did, he said. That's the point. Claire walked past him without looking back. I followed her, hand on her back. We made it to the car. Got Eli strapped in. Started the engine. As the headlights cut through the dark, I looked one last time at the house behind us. Lucas was standing in the window. Just watching. Alone. And in that moment, I wondered if I hated him more, for what he'd done. Or for the part of me that still saw my brother standing there. Part 8, What Remains. The drive back was nearly silent, but not empty. Eli fell asleep halfway through, his head resting against Claire's arm in the back seat. I kept one hand on the wheel, the other clenched in my lap. I didn't know how to hold everything at once, the truth, the betrayal, the love that hadn't disappeared even when it should have. When we reached Claire's apartment, she carried Eli inside while I stood in the doorway, watching the hallway like something might follow us in. I didn't step over the threshold. Not yet. Claire came back after laying him down, standing in the amber kitchen light with her arms crossed tightly against her chest. "He's safe," she said softly. "That's what matters." I nodded, but my eyes stayed fixed on the floor. "I don't know what I am now," I said. To him. Claire stepped closer. "You're still the man who was ready to tear the world apart to find him. That counts for something." I laughed once. Flat. Bitter. "Maybe. But it's not blood." Her voice didn't rise. It never did. But it was love. I looked at her then, really looked, at the face I'd memorized and cursed, missed and blamed. The same face I still, somehow, wanted to believe. "You lied," I said. She nodded. "I did. And if the roles were reversed? I'd never forgive you," she whispered. We stood like that, inches apart, the weight of the truth pressing down from the ceiling like it might collapse. "I wasn't always good to you," I said. "But I never would have walked away from him. Not if I'd known." "I know," she said. "That's why I kept trying to lie to myself." There was no anger left between us. Just sadness. And maybe something quieter underneath, something like understanding. "Lucas," I started. "He's gone," she said. I checked. "After you fell asleep last night, I called one of his old friends. Said he left town before sunrise. No note. Just vanished. It didn't surprise me. That was always Lucas. Never stayed long enough to face the ruin he left behind. But this time, he hadn't taken anything with him." Claire poured a glass of water and handed it to me. I didn't want it. I took it anyway. "I can't promise we'll ever go back to what we were," she said. "I don't want what we were," I replied. "I want something we haven't ruined yet." She looked up at me. And in that look, there was no forgiveness. But there was possibility. Maybe that was enough. We sat at the kitchen table again, same place she'd slid that photo across just a few days ago. Only now, it felt like months. Years. "You're still part of his life," she said after a while. "If you want to be." I didn't answer right away. I looked toward the hallway, where I could just barely see the edge of Eli's bedroom door. "I do," I said. "Even if I'm not his father in name. I can still show up like one." Claire nodded. Her eyes didn't water. They just softened. A quiet surrender. The night settled in deeper, the kind that doesn't ask permission to stay. And in that silence, I made a choice I never thought I'd be strong enough to make. To stay anyway. 3 months later, I was sitting with Eli on a park bench. He was drawing again, this time with markers. A dinosaur, I think. Or maybe a dragon. He told me it had wings because it wanted to, not because anyone said it should. Claire was nearby, reading a book, her feet bare in the grass. Eli handed me the drawing and said, "You can keep this one." I smiled, my throat tight. "Thanks, buddy." He looked up at me. "Mom says you're not really my dad." My heart stopped for a beat. "But she also said you're still mine," he continued, matter of fact, like it was obvious. I swallowed. "She's right." He nodded, satisfied, then leaned against my side. The wind moved through the trees, warm and forgiving. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was pretending to belong. I just was. Sometimes, family isn't about blood. Sometimes, it's about who stays.